Journalist to get to Tacloban after the storm, and she joins us now. At this point, Paula, what can you tell us?
Well, Becky, I'm at the airport here where it's pretty devastated. The buildings are almost destroyed and you can see the devastation behind me. But crucially, the landing strip has not been damaged, so the military is still able to get supplies in, food, water, medication, and which is desperately needed around this area. Now, throughout the day, throughout overnight, last night as well, in the torrential rain, we had many people coming to the airport because they knew that, or they thought they could get food and water here. The town itself, the centre of Tacloban, is about 15 kilometres away, and it's a hefty walk and a difficult walk through the devastation. Many of the roads are still blocked, although the main road is open at this point. And they came here to get food and water because they were simply too desperate to wait for help to get to them. And we have heard from a number of these people. Some are angry because they believe the response has simply been too slow. They say there has been some looting in Tacloban city centre because they needed food and water and it simply wasn't coming to them. Now, the government at this point, I've spoken to the mayor, he acknowledges it was a slow response, basically because the first responders here were actually the casualties, so that's what made it so difficult. Becky?
How did those who you spoke to describe what happened as this storm swept through?
One woman told me that it was worse than hell, and she said it was absolutely torturous. I spoke to the mayor, who he almost lost his life with his wife and 2 children. They said they clung to the roof as the water was coming through the 2nd floor, and he said it was absolutely horrific, and people here have never experienced anything like this. This is a country that's used to typhoons. They have more than 20 every single year, but nothing like this super typhoon that's happened. I spoke to another lady who had lost her 3 daughters. She was actually here at the airport because they were taken by the water out of her husband's arms. Becky?
Paula, as you speak, we're looking at aerial views taken of the area. The devastation is absolutely awful. Let's just break this down for our viewers. You say the main town is about 15 kilometres from the airport. Have you got any sense at this point as to the areas that have been reached by emergency workers, those who are on the ground, the responders, and perhaps the areas that haven't yet been reached? All right, we've, as you can understand, the communications with the Philippines are not easy at present. We're doing our best, and we've just, in fact, we have got Paula back now. Paula, if you can hear me, I was just asking you to break this down for our viewers. She's gone. All right, let's see if we can get her back a little later. Wind speeds and satellite images give a hint of the power of Friday's typhoon. And do remember, this is now 48 hours later. This was what it felt like as the storm roared through Tacloban city. These images were recorded by Andrew Stevens and his news crew. Here's his full report on the typhoon and the damage that has wrought on the city.
Struck with terrifying and deadly force. The aftermath, Tacloban city's shattered landscape. This was home to thousands. It was not the wind that did it, it was a storm surge. Reports of a 5-metre wall of water that engulfed the coastal strips and spread through the city. Even where the CNN crew was sheltering, about a kilometre from the shoreline, the surge was waist-deep and powerful. All around us you hear the sounds of windows breaking, you hear the sounds of large objects falling and crashing to the floor, and underfoot it is now just a deluge. And if you look behind me, I don't know if you can see it, the staircase behind me is now basically a waterfall. But that didn't compare with what happened here. The storm surge was the most destructive part of this typhoon. We're about 100 metres or so from the water here, and you can see the damage caused. These houses, these are all rust-filled houses, completely flattened along the foreshore. Thousands of people live along a stretch of several kilometres, and you can see behind me just how bad it must have been.
devastating.
Authorities had pleaded with people to leave. Many did, but many stayed. This man was searching for his father, his brothers and his uncle, somewhere, he thinks, under this rubble. We all tried to leave, but it was too late. I got separated when the water started rising. I don't know what happened to them, he tells me.
His wife and children got swept away.
The city of 200,000 people is widespread. Winds upward of 250 kilometres an hour, leaving a trail of destruction. This is now a city on edge. No power, food and water running out, and medical supplies almost gone. St Paul's Hospital, we're told, is the only functioning medical facility in the city. They can't admit any more patients. There's no room, just first aid in the most difficult of conditions.
We have no more rooms.
We hardly have anything left to help people with, the doctor tells me. We have to get supplies in immediately. Just a block away from the hospital, the increasingly desperate search for food and water leads to looting. This is one of the few stores which is left open, and as you can see, the crowds have been forming around these stores, taking anything they can. Food is the priority at the moment, but air conditioning units, plastic toys, everything is coming out of these stores. Another street away, people are climbing up a lamppost to get to the second floor of a department store to grab anything they can. It took a full day before help arrived. And even though the storm was predicted days in advance, the response so far has not been nearly enough. This was nature at its most frightening, a display of force that has smashed the lives of so many people. And this is just one city. There are countless towns up and down the coast.
Well, there's other pictures we didn't see yet.
To hear word from. Andrew Stevens, CNN, Tacloban City, Central Philippines.
Well, there is no doubt that millions of people across the Philippines need help in recovering our help. You can play a role in that. Just go to cnn.com/impact, and there is a whole raft of information that you may need, may help you out to help in all of this. Well, HAIYAN is expected to cause more destruction in the region. The storm expected to strike Vietnam as early as Monday morning with greatly diminished winds but heavy rain. Reports quote officials are saying at least 4 people already have been killed while preparing to escape the storm. The authorities there say they are evacuating hundreds of thousands of people. Many flights have already been cancelled due to the weather conditions. Or with more on the storm and where
Vietnam.
Let's go to Samantha Moore, who is at the World Weather Centre. And thankfully we hear at least the storm lessening as it barrels towards Vietnam. What's the forecast?
Well, it is weakening, Becky, and that's good news. However, the path that it's taking is problematic. It's very close to the coastline here, so it's tapping into all of that moisture in the South China Sea, bringing the moisture on shore. So that's where we're going to see very heavy rain along the coastline. Storm surge is still a concern, and you know we had that 5-meter storm surge when it was a super typhoon as it hit the Philippines. We won't see most likely that kind of storm surge, but it's very low lying here. So that is a major issue. Moving to the northwest at 33 kilometers per hour. It has weakened, as you said, to 150 kilometers per hour with max sustained winds at 185. And here is the forecast track. We'll see the conditions continue to deteriorate here in northern Vietnam, in Hanoi, the next 24 hours. By then it should be on land and they should have the brunt force of the rain and the wind. By then, it will be down to around 95 kilometers per hour, so it will continue to weaken as it is experiencing some shear that's going to tear it apart, as well as some cooler waters. But still